You said you were animated about this yesterday. Why can't, it doesn't matter where we are in this country, but let's talk about it here. Why can't we get a handle on this? What are we doing wrong?
For some reason, men believe that they can control women, and part of controlling women is beating them. Look, men are stronger than women, physically for the most part, and it's their way of asserting power and control. They've been doing it since the beginning of time. And we continue to see it, even though at least now we have laws on the books that make it illegal. It's a crime. You know, in 1978, it was not a crime. You could beat, stab, shoot, brutalize your wife, and you couldn't get prosecuted in most states in this country because it was considered a family event, and you know, it wasn't right for the government to get involved. And I started one of the first domestic violence units in the nation in 1978, which was a federal pilot program funded by the Department of Justice. So before then, it was, you know, beat her up, nobody cares. And so then it took a long time to get people to recognize that you can't beat your wife. It's a crime, just like if you beat a stranger. But there was this feeling and this mentality that I can do it, I can get away with it, she'll be afraid of me, she's connected to me, we've got kids together, she can't live without me, I make the money, I make the bread and butter, I pay the mortgage, the rent. And for years that was the thinking, and unfortunately, men are still beating women.
I was just going to ask you, since you founded this in '78, what has really changed? I mean, other the awareness and the punishment for it, but maybe not a lot has changed at the same time.
I think the police have changed, and that's a good thing. Before, they used to say, you know what, why don't you go to your mother's and tell him to take a walk around the block? So that's a good thing. Judges used to say to me, you know, Jeanine, why don't you take a case like this to family court? You're a prosecutor. And women now believing that, you know, there is an option for them, but having a hard time from that belief to actually motivating themselves to leave. And so my crusade for decades has been, not only should you not tolerate this, but your life is at stake in some cases where I believe that a homicide is predictable. There are times when you can almost predict a homicide. And this is from experience. If a man tells a woman, you're gonna die by October 1st, chances are he's gonna kill her. If he says to her, get your will, get your everything in order, I'm gonna kill you, she needs to believe him. When a woman makes the decision to leave, that is the most dangerous time for her. So that decision has to be surrounded by a real plan, because 75% of the women who are killed when they're trying to leave, all right? And strangulation itself is an indicator that if you've been strangled, if he puts his arm around you, he restricts your breathing, he chokes you, next time he's going to kill you. 800% he's going to kill you next time.
You've made it a crusade for all these years. You talked about it a little bit yesterday, but what can you do with this office to continue that, to reach out and help people?
I think the best thing that we can do is let victims know that they're welcome here, that there's no judgment here, that we will support the victim in whatever she needs to make her a survivor. And that means to get her into a shelter, to get her into some safe place with safe people, to get her the help she needs, the financing that she needs, to move her children if that's what she needs, and to make sure that he is held criminally responsible for what he's done. But that also requires that she work with me. And that means that I have to have her testimony to prove the case. So we created a program called VIPER. It is Violent Intimate Partner Emergency Response. And that means that we get a prosecutor as soon as there's an arrest to connect with the victim. We get a victim witness assistant who will work with the victim. We get a release from the victim for her medical records. In the event that she chooses not to testify later, I've got the medical records that I can put in evidence. We make sure she knows that she can call us any time of the night or day, and we stay in touch with her to give her support that she needs. Because when you think about it, there's a balance. She's got a husband or a boyfriend or significant other with kids, with a home, with an apartment, with a room, and then the idea of going out on her own. I mean, what do you think is weightier with her?
Oh, it's deflating.
Yeah. And so they're fearful. And they're fearful for good reason, because he's already proven that he can beat her and he can control her. And so all of this stuff militates against her working with us. But what I can tell you, what I can tell every woman who's listening, is if he beats you once, you can rest assured he's going to do it again. And it's going to increase in frequency and severity as time goes on. And if he chokes you, he's going to kill you. And women need to understand this. I've been around a long time. I have focused on this for my career. This has been my passion. My crusade is the inequity where women are treated not just like chattel, but like they can be beaten, killed, and destroyed and thrown away. I can't allow that.
And there is, of course, still the argument that's out there. Well, he didn't mean it. He put his hands on you, but that narrative is still so, that stigma. I mean, that's really what it comes to. It's like, well, I'm not going to leave because
they
he didn't really mean it.
Yeah. Women rationalize. I have a future with him, and they believe him. They go through what's called a honeymoon period where he's sorry, maybe because the police came and he doesn't want to go to jail, or because she's even more afraid. And because maybe their religion says, you got to stay married, keep the family together. When women don't realize the impact it's having on children who watch violence. Violence is learned behavior. And when you learn that behavior in the home, your children are growing up to repeat either what the father is doing or what the mother is doing, or the boyfriend or the mother. You see, it's learned behavior, and that learned behavior spills out onto the streets. But what we're seeing now in D.C. is, as the streets are getting safer, with the surge and with the federal enhancement, we're seeing violence and strangulation alone going up 60% in 1 year. And men, when you think about it, it's like the law of the jungle. You put your hand on someone to stop them from breathing. That is an act of killing. That man wants to kill you. And many women, I've got the cases, they pass out, they lose consciousness, they urinate on themselves, they suffer from a loss of oxygen to the brain, so then they have traumatic brain injury. I mean, this is serious stuff. This isn't just a punch in the face, as if that isn't bad enough. This is very serious.
And I think it's what you're doing here with that Viper program and other things, but it is also working with the police department in terms of training them. Can you speak about that a little bit?
Well, first of all, let me say, I think the MPD is great. I'm very proud of the training that we're doing with them, of the work that they do every day. Look, they want a prosecutor who, when they make an arrest, is going to follow through with the prosecution. Otherwise, they go through the paperwork and get involved for nothing. So, I mean, we work together on these cases, and in these cases, I know from experience that I just can't say to the victim, look, we'll catch you at the felony hearing, we'll catch you at the grand jury, see you at the trial. No, that victim needs to be supported all the way through the system, or we're going to lose her. This is too easy a case to lose, and there's too much at stake to lose it.
And what, you were asked about this a little bit yesterday, but your expectations for the new chief, I mean, it could steer towards domestic violence, but I know you've probably talked to him about this and your concerns with this. Take me inside any of those conversations.
Acting Chief Carroll is very savvy. He's very smart. He understands the issue. He works with us. I've had many conversations with him. He listens. He is receptive and responsive. And hopefully he will be the police chief, because we can work with him. He is someone who is sensitive to the needs of victims, and not just domestic violence victims, but all victims. So I am optimistic about the future. I'm not optimistic about violence reoccurring, but I'm optimistic about the fact that we've got everything in place to start to deal with the reality of the violence that occurs in intimate relationships where, homicides are very much a part of the equation.
Is there anything else you think your office can do to fight this? Because it is clear as you said, the other numbers are down, the MPD's numbers are down, but and again, it's Prince George's County, it's all the other counties for the most part around DC as well.
The most important thing that we can do, given that the criminal justice system and the responses in place, is to get to the victim, to let her know that we're going to fight for you. You can't fight for yourself. This man has already asserted himself over you. He has asserted himself in ways that will damage you and your family and your future. But we are here to make sure that we level the playing field, and level that playing field I will. That I promise you. MPD is very receptive to the danger of strangulation. And so we've prepared something that will help train them as to the kinds of questions they need to ask victims. Because a victim will say, oh, well, you know, he had his hands on my neck, or, you know, he was hurting me. They need to ask questions like, was your airflow restricted? Did you feel lightheaded? You know, what is it about his hands around your neck that, you know, will then support a strangulation case? So we have created all kinds of training for the police that they are very receptive to and are very interested in making sure to look for injuries in strangulation, red marks around the neck. You can actually get fingerprints around the neck, or see the finger marks around the neck. Petechial hemorrhaging, where these little red dots in the eyes from the bursting of the blood vessels in the eyes. The police are now trained when strangulation was made a felony from a misdemeanor 4 years ago. And it was my office that pushed to make strangulation a crime of violence last year. And most of these defendants were out. They were not detained. And so we got the DC Council to make it a crime of violence, which means the judge has to detain these offenders. They're some of the most dangerous offenders out there. So a lot of victims may not understand that vomiting, urinating, defecating, those are all byproducts of their being strangled. And the police need to know to look for that, and the victims need to know that that is a consequence of being strangled. They may forget it. They may have lost consciousness.